Hi, I'm in San Diego, and welcome to Life. That's the name of this series on health and wellness and medical research, especially about neurodegenerative diseases. And our specialty over the years is supporting um, uh, Parkinson's research, particularly in outer space. I asked Jana to join us. She's from the space company. And I also invited Dr. Paula Grisanti, who's CEO of National Stem Cell Foundation, but she was in a meeting, but she'll get the video and she'll come on the next edition that we do. I just got off with her 10 minutes ago. Okay, so this show is a special event, although it's part of the To Life series of Global Business News. It's celebrating the Communicator Awards. And each of you are being invited by me to accept the Global Communicator Award for your work in several regards, particularly getting the message out about Parkinson's and living with Parkinson's. Uh, there are other TV shows and podcasts that cover this, including the famous Michael J. Fox shows. And this is a business to business show, so that's why we're a little bit different and able to do this successfully. Very happy to do this. It's been going on now, I think, 3 or 4 years, if I remember right. Mark Colo was the originator. Larry then joined with Mark and others. So the Global Communicator Award this year is different from years past, dating back to the year 2000 when it was an annual event, one event featuring 15 or 20 people that I selected in my wisdom. Uh, Payment to me means nothing. It's what I feel is communicative, is what I feel communicates an idea, a policy, a practice that helps a lot of people connected with business, but helps a lot of people. And that's the purpose and the uniqueness of this. We keep it clean and honest, 100%. Larry Linton, you recently wrote a post in LinkedIn. You publish a lot. And Larry is an attorney background for many years with a major law firm and retired, probably due to some extent because of getting Parkinson's. Now is settled into a life of being very, very active and communicative about living with Parkinson's. Ken Lloyd, PhD, organizational development, organizational psychology. Ken, say it better than me. Go a little deeper about your degree and your practice and how it relates.
My whole interest throughout my career has been in people at work. From an undergrad, I knew I would find some program that could do that. Went over to UCLA for a master's and PhD and consulted basically in the people at work area, not specifically HR, although HR reported to me in my most recent position. Also doing a lot of business writing, enjoy doing it, and had a newspaper column for many years. It was syndicated by the New York Times on people at work kinds of issues, consulted for a lot of years, then joined a client, and then met Ed not too long ago and have enjoyed
Through
being on
Paul
his
Felt. Oh,
programs
yeah,
and
right,
meeting so many
right.
interesting and informed people. And it's just been a delight.
Right. And I was introduced to Larry a few years ago from Mark Colo, who unfortunately can't be with us today. Um, my brother Dave has Parkinson's recently. So my brother Dave has an illustrious career in public relations going back many years at senior levels, very senior, in particular with ABC News, behind the camera mostly, right?
Right. I mean, and
Well, your early
I
years,
was
you
going to
were.
start. I was going to start this with saying I've known Ed all my life.
That's right.
He's like a brother to you.
I remember. Yeah. Here's
But
another note taker
but
here.
but
Excuse
I've
me.
done. I had more than 20 years in journalism, most of which were with ABC News, and for much of that time, I was one of Peter Jennings' traveling producers. If he was going to some place where I always say where they were going to shoot people. I was on the second seat in the plane behind him, but it was also good. And when I left the news business, I transferred my skills to companies we all know like Anheuser-Busch and Honda and Textron.
PG&E, huh?
Well, more recently PG&E.
Yeah.
It's my fault, by the way, that your rates are going up.
Well, that's because they paid you a lot of money, or still do.
But most recently, I've done consulting work in communications for companies like Genentech and Gilead Sciences. The last real project I worked on was for the state of California, which was in the business of working with the Federal Deposit Insurance Company to close two banks,
Oh, like Silicon Valley Bank?
Silicon Valley and
Yeah.
First Republic.
Oh boy.
And the reason for that is because there's a timing process of what has to happen with state chartered banks, because the state chartered banks are closed by the state but have to be affirmed by the federal government. So there's like three or four documents in each case of closure, and it's sort of like one state, one federal, two state, two federal, three state, three federal, and it's all a timing process where they all have to be done within about 9 minutes of each other.
So we'll get into this at another time, but there was I read that story about Goldman Sachs and the other company. I can't remember right now. Sorry. Uh, Not Goldman Sachs.
JP.
Larry Fink, Blackstone.
BlackRock.
Yeah, okay, BlackRock, right. And the Silicon Valley Bank, and the timing got screwed up. Yeah.
Well, the timing got screwed up, but what happened was word got out that the big guys were taking their money out,
Hmm.
and everybody panicked. But
Panic. Yeah.
panic. It was a panic
Yeah.
culture. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's there. But the Silicon Valley is now run by a bank out of North Carolina, like a lot of banks. And First Republic is J.P. Morgan.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, Dave, how you feeling these days?
I feel pretty good for an old man. I don't, if I had a stable hand, I'd be a better person, but I don't.
Yeah, okay. Well, I really appreciate your time here. So, the work that you're doing by being here on the show is really commemorative of your love of people and love of getting the story out. That's your background. And Larry Linton has a long story, but very recently he wrote a short version of it and in LinkedIn, which is just a terrific read. And we're not going to read it now, but everybody will get it later. Larry, welcome again. Tell
Oh,
us a little
thank
bit about your background, originally from South Africa. And by the way, Ron has some business interests that perhaps you and he could talk about later, being from South Africa, having to do with real estate. And he'll do it a lot better or more in depth than me, but having to do with real estate and some worry about the government getting
you.
in the way of real estate transfer.
Yeah.
If you want to address that now or later, that I want you to talk about Parkinson's.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, and good to see everybody again. I was born into adversity. I lost my father when I was 6 years old. He had heart
Um,
disease and passed away at 45. So I thought that my life's challenge would be, living well. But I got diagnosed at 49 with Parkinson's disease, and as is typical, it took about 2 or 3 years to be diagnosed, and then threw me into a complete downward spiral, having to deal with that, and became a recluse. And it took 2 or 3 years to get through the acceptance stage, and then when I got to that stage, my life started living again, and continued with my career. So when I wrote this most recent piece, I kind of look back and my perspective on living with Parkinson's has changed over my 13 years now of living with it. At first, it was, something that I was going to outrun and outtrain and outdiet. But then I realized that that's not the case. And when I got to that acceptance stage, I started living with the disease and not against it any longer. And that's when my life changed for the positive. So what I must admit, the piece that Ed's referring to is in fact the introduction into for my second book, because my first little memoir that I wrote dealt with the first 7 years of my journey with Parkinson's and what I did physically to get my life back in order. But I found that over 13 years now, the journey is more profound. It's more of a self-discovery. I've become a different person with Parkinson's, a person that I prefer today, despite the Parkinson's that I preferred today that I didn't prefer when I was running the corporate ladder, so to speak, because Parkinson has given me the gift of patience and time to recalibrate and recenter. So what I really enjoy these days is sharing my story, because it's more profound than just dealing with the physical symptoms of Parkinson's. It's the whole psychological resilience living with Parkinson's and the adaptation. And whenever I can, I use the opportunity to expand that into the workplace, because I had to deal with Parkinson's in the workplace with accommodation requests and the difficulty in discussing that when you have a chronic illness like Parkinson's. It's different to an illness where you need time off and you get better and you come back to work. So I'm just whenever I have the opportunity, talking about my life in the hope that it resonates and helps both from people with Parkinson's and also insurance companies dealing with disabilities, employers not understanding the accommodation request for somebody with a chronic illness. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you again, Ed, who I've known for a very long time, who has
Yeah,
probably
I know.
seen the ups and downs.
Going back when I was producing those live events in Toronto.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let's see. Did you go to that live event I did at the BMO, Bank of Montreal?
Yes,
Yeah.
all those years ago. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
boy, that was the best way to go out on top, huh? That was a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much for that. So you stopped, um, forgive my use of words here, but complaining or worrying and why me, woe is me. And you started banging on drums and
Right.
then running in track meets, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
then you did them both I think at the same time. You got really into the idea of conquering. Uh, I remember you said in that article, uh, not today, Parkinson's, not today,
yes, that's
that
right.
kind of thing.
Yeah, I found that to deal with the physicality, when I got to that point of acceptance and started moving again, I put myself on my treadmill and I walked for a minute. At the time, I had a very discernible tremor in my right hand and a dragging right foot. I was walking literally with a limp. But when I got onto the treadmill, I started walking for 10 minutes and then running a minute. And over the weeks, started decreasing the walking and increased the running to the point of going outside, running, and then completing 4 half marathons in 5 years. Um, and to deal with the physicality of the tremors, I took to drumming because I was a amateur drummer in my youth and enjoyed that. And I decided to then devote time to learning hand drumming, because to deal with the tremor, I wanted to use the muscles in my arms. And so I took to hand drumming, became a percussionist, joined some bands, and played in the Beaches Jazz Festival, which is an annual sort of a music festival on the streets of Toronto on Queen Street. So I devoted time to the physicality of that. But as I developed that as well, my mental picture changed as well. I decided to devote time to meditation because I was doing the physical work, but also I was prone to panic attacks and anxiety with my Parkinson's. So I learned to deal with my breath by focusing on meditation. So I've tried all of these things which with Parkinson's, which I wish I could have done and spread the word for people to do it without a chronic illness, because I do think they are lifestyle changes that could stand the test of time with anybody trying to live a authentic and genuine life, with humility and grace.
Dave, do you want to comment?
Well, I think it's great that you can overcome. I mean, I'm still dealing with the ability to get accommodations,
Right,
uh,
right.
because I used to be able to type 80, 90 words a minute, and now I'm lucky to get 8 words a minute.
So this is 2 or 3 years into it?
About 3 years now.
Hmm.
But
Is,
at this point, I'm happily retired,
Right.
and I'm not trying to reconquer the world. I'm trying to survive.
Right. And in that, you are resilient, and I think that's the definition of resilience for people with a chronic illness like Parkinson's. We never return to the person that we were, because Parkinson's is a disease that takes things away over a period of
Yes.
time, and it's a question of then living well at the time of where we're at with the disease, and in itself that is resilience, the adaptation and the appreciation of what we can continue to do and no longer worry about and criticize ourselves about what we can no longer do.
so it's the coordination of the mental exercising with the physical.
It's different in what takes away or what gets added in. I mean, for me, the the one I don't know if you want to call it a symptom or a reaction is I have problems controlling drooling.
Right.
And you sit there and I mean, I'm not foaming at the mouth, but I take 4 pills a day to keep from foaming at the mouth.
Mm.
So are you able to go up and down stairs?
I have to. I live in a 2-story house.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't know whether you got one of those scooter things or
No,
the banister things.
no banister. I mean, I walk the stairs. I walk the stairs. I don't run up and down the stairs. I walk up and down the stairs, and I hold on to the banister.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
that's my only. But I was holding on to the banister 20 years ago. I'm not. I don't think there's anything new in that regard.
Oh boy.
What about you?
Uh, I don't have that yet. Uh, I walk 10,000 steps a day with Joanne. She's actually pushing me to walk 10,000 steps a day. And sometimes we go to 14.
How do you?
So, so that's what we do. So that, by the way, is part of her therapy because she's dealing with a family, her side of the family affliction called Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. So it's early stage, but for the most part. But we use the walking every day, and swimming in the pool downstairs
Mm.
to just keep active. That's the key, isn't it, Larry? Just staying active.
Yeah, I encourage anybody to be as active as much as they can for as long as they can, and do it as hard as they can. I'm fortunate in the sense that I was pre-diagnosis. I was reasonably fit, played soccer all my life, and continued that. And I think the extent and the intensity of the exercise regime that I've put myself through the last 13 years has had a definite slowing down of the symptoms in my case. In fact, when I met Michael J. Fox, and I took some time to make sure that I could meet him and at least shake his hand, because he had a profound impact on my life, growing up with the movies and then his work with Parkinson's. The first thing he said to me is, the two things he asked: how long have I had it, and if I was exercising, because I think there is a general acceptance that physical exercise does help deal with the symptoms. And that, unfortunately, is a catch-22 situation, because when it comes to disability claims and insurance adjusters who see you, or you are videoed coming out of a gym, or when I used to say that I've done half marathons, their whole attitude sort of changes. That how can you be totally disabled but yet still managing to run marathons? So there's a disconnect, unfortunately, between the understanding of what it is to live with a chronic, incurable, progressive illness, and
That's
that you
the
can
power of what I want this program to be, because a lot of people will see this. I'll make sure of that out through our network. But I'll get you all the clips of this, the audio and the video and the text notes, and feel free to distribute or chop it up and use your own sections if you wish. As owner of the show, the copyrights owner, I will make sure that it gets out through YouTube, of course, and LinkedIn, but also all these other channels, RSS feeds. It will be seen for sure. So, Ken, thank you for joining us on this. How are you feeling? You okay?
Fine, thank you. And just so moved by the comments of Larry and David. You're just an inspiration for those with Parkinson's and those who may be suffering from other illnesses, particularly long-term. And what you're doing physically and mentally is just remarkable and inspiring. And I certainly thank you for all that you're doing, because so many people need your words and strength. And it just means a lot.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
This is the front cover of a book by Dr. Ken Lloyd. And I can't bring it any closer because I think the camera is going to blot it out, but I'll try. Oh, yeah, there it goes. Performance Appraisals and Phrases for Dummies. This is the second edition that you've published. So is there anything in here about dealing with people with afflictions?
Well, I think there's strong underlying messages in there about empathy, understanding, listening to people, respecting others, maintaining open communications, and all of that. And certainly in terms of accommodations, you mentioned that as part of the discussion, to certainly understand the need for that and understanding, and not to try to in any way short it and work around it. When I hear that you're running half marathons, to me, I mean, then you need an accommodation. No, this is what you're doing as part of your own physical and mental wellness program. And anything other than that, to me, is just a horrible reflection on any person that would say, well, you don't really deserve an accommodation. To me, that's crazy. Okay, it absolutely is. The fact that you're doing that, I mean, certainly as we get older, physical and mental activity are clearly important. And what you're doing while also having Parkinson's is just, it's remarkable. And I think it's helped for both of you, David and Edwin, has helped make you, as in every sense of the word, successful as you, and inspirational as you are today.
Thank you.
Larry, to what extent is your breath control impacted?
Well, what I was a different person without Parkinson's, and then I got the the diagnosis, I was prone, I started having panic attacks. So, that's all not being able to control your breath work. And I had to relearn how to conduct myself in meetings. I was a partner at a large, professional services firm, and I had some issues where I couldn't remember the question that was asked. And we went around, the 6 partners, and I forgot what the question was. And then I used to forget the words. So I had to learn how to breathe and how to have some time, and read some books about the 1 second rule or the 7 second rule, where I played the game, so to speak. I made sure that I was the last person to speak so that I could hear other opinions and then formulate, as we were going around the table, my own thought pattern. And then if I didn't have that time, I used to stop and ask that the question be rephrased so that I could again remember it. So I learned how to do that. And all of it, to answer your question, it comes down to breath work, because if you focus on your breath, you give yourself, your brain, the time to catch up and allow the words to come forward. So it is very important to do, where I slow down and deal with anxiety, but give myself time to catch up. That's where I use breath work.
So a lot of this is cognitive control, and thinking. Well, in the past, you're a superstar attorney. Um, you had it all up here. You're all working the angles and the deliverables with partners who are equal or even brighter,
Sure.
than you.
Absolutely.
And there you are, forgetting what was talked about 5 minutes ago, because of the cognitive impact.
Right.
So one of those things, of course, hindsight's 2020. Write things down
Yeah, sure.
quickly. Become a note taker, but sometimes you can't move your hands slow, right?
That's exactly right. That's
Right.
exactly right. I always disclosed my condition. I never hid it away from my employers, but it reached a point where the development of where my performance and the intersection with the disease came to a point, and so there was a consequence to that, which could be the subject of another discussion. But there were always the rules of engagement that I was very aware of in a big corporate environment, and I used to try and control that environment as much as possible so that I could be calm. I mean, there's nothing worse than sitting in front of a client with a tremoring hand as a lawyer. I mean, it just doesn't convey the right confidence in the client. But as soon as I disclosed, as soon as I told them, look, don't worry about my hand, what's coming out of my mouth is generally, correct. And so I kind of was very self-deprecating to a large extent to calm myself down, but also more importantly, calm the client down, or calm the partners down as we were sitting around the table. So it took some getting used to.
Thank you very much. I want to introduce again Ron Cooper. Ron is a communicator. He's the author of at least one book. And let me do real quick, if I can, Ron, and please correct me if I said something wrong. Years ago, during the Vietnam era, Ron was a fighter pilot, 300 missions. Every time came back with the plane, thankfully, and was squadron leader and a trainer. And you may have seen the Top Gun movies. The character that Tom Cruise portrays is actually built on people like this guy right here. And so thank you. You're an inspiration, and that in itself is a communicator. But what you're doing now is you've taken that discipline, that military background, and that mental discipline, mental control of complicated things, and turn it into coaching at executive levels. Ron is a client, and together we've been producing almost weekly shows on various topics. Recently, he did some talks with me, and Ken was in on some of them about difficult conversations. And I'm going to stop talking and let Ron talk here, but it is because of the nature of that topic in the workplace, and even as I have come to learn in interpersonal relations, the way to have a difficult conversation is critical. Ron Cooper, welcome, and thank you for being on this program.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll say very briefly, what I do is work with companies to implement what Ken Lloyd has written about in his books. And what I do, Dave and Larry, is help people understand what you're going through. And as best I can, not having been or having what you have, but as best I can cognitively understand your situation, I want to help leaders to adapt to and accommodate you. And I don't mean that in a patronizing way, but Dave, I'm just going to just say as an example, you mentioned earlier that you're no longer able to type the way you used to, but now with AI, you can speak it, transcribe it. You don't need your fingers any longer.
Well, I still have a
Larry,
brain.
what's that?
I still have a brain.
Well, see, Dave, that's exactly what I'm alluding to. You have the brain. You and Larry have the brain. It's just that the fingers, the physical parts, are not what they used to be. So now, as leaders in progressive companies, and I want to make sure the word progressive, but advancing companies, innovative thinking people are thinking for Dave, Larry, you to accommodate you in the workplace because very succinctly, Dave, as you just said, and Larry, clearly you're the same way, the brain still functions. And so there may be some other limitations, but we want to work with you to, and again, I'll use the word accommodate, and I don't mean that in any marginalizing way in any form or fashion, but there's still those areas that function extremely well with you, and we want to capitalize on that. So from my perspective, it's a matter of helping leaders to identify your strengths, capitalize on those strengths, and we move forward with what we have to work with. But very succinctly, that's what I work with.
I just want to jump in here, a time check. We need to end this program at 15 past the hour. It's now 3 past the hour. Okay, just Ron, do you want to exchange notes using the chat with anybody here? And anybody could network here by exchanging email for a follow-up later. I encourage that at our meetings. I call this the global meeting room affectionately. Sure, it's my Zoom and it's going to be in my YouTube thing, but it's the global meeting room right here because it's mental and digital. And it's what I like to refer to as a psychologically safe place to have a difficult conversation. It's safe.
And Ed, just very briefly to advance that, Dave and Larry, I'm very interested in interacting with you so that I can learn from each one of you what are ways I can help leaders, senior leaders, to have a safe place, workplace for you. What I want to be aware of is don't say some things, and if whatever they may be, and so do work with the strengths you have, and that's as succinctly as I can put it. But I need to learn from each one of you.
It's very much like I'm going to go back 50, 60 years. And in the newsroom that was all male, and then there were women because the government said you need to hire women, not because you thought they were good. Turned out they were good or they were better. Then it was the same with people of color. So it's that way when an accommodation, a health accommodating, and I don't have a problem with the word accommodating, but accommodating a health issue because it's part of it's part of that puzzle that makes a successful organization.
Mm. Yeah, and you're right. And I'm pleased to hear that it starts with leadership. You know, it's one thing with firms and corporate organizations, they implement it on an HR level. It's got to be ingrained in the culture and values of leadership because that's where it starts. You know, it can't be lip service. And that's why it's important work that you're doing on yourself.
No, and
Yeah.
David, Larry, culture is what it's all about. That it is our branding, our company's branding. This is who we are, our integrity, and we deeply, profoundly respect the Davids and Larrys of the world, and that's that's just a defining characteristic. We will not tolerate those who think any less of anybody else. It's
Mm,
that kind of thing. So we always keep it on the positive level and
mm,
but it can be self-policing when
mm,
we have the culture that yep, that's exactly who we are.
mm.
Ken?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to go further on Ron's point, we're talking about culture. It is not just talking because you hear a lot of verbalizations about we are so open and
Mm,
accommodating and responsive and concerned about people. It's the actions. It's really showing that, demonstrating it, taking action as needed in this area. I read a book with such an interesting expression, that stays with you. It's not just the creed, it's by the deed. Okay. So
mm,
we can have this creed as we believe, okay, how are we demonstrating it? And that's really where the action is. Companies, in many cases, will like to talk about how wonderful they are. Let's really implement that. And I agree with you completely starting at the senior level. I know there's talk of moving HR into a C-suite kind of position, and that's fine. But
mm.
we really want it to come from the top leader, as well as leaders of the organization, not just to articulate it, but to demonstrate it and to implement
Can we
Yeah.
move HR out of the building?
it.
You mean make,
And the problem with HR is that they like to check boxes off,
Right. That's exactly
and
right.
and so that in the hardest lesson an employee learns is that HR is not there for them.
And David, I'll advance that a little bit further. I agree with you that yes, HR, we're real people with a heartbeat, and we have a body temperature. You function back here in the back room, and yep, you definitely have a function. But I'm looking for real people with a heartbeat, values, and those who can think critically. And so, HR, I'm coming to you with the expectation that you'll find those people for me.
Okay, it's a deal.
Mm,
well, I didn't know what to expect from this show an hour ago, I'll tell you that, but I'm glad I did it. So
mm.
thank you guys. Thanks for being here. Let's sum up. Dave, what are you going to be doing in the next week? Anything special, anything unique?
I have a meeting with my neurologist, and
What what does a neurologist do?
neurologist is the Parkinson's doctor.
Mm.
Okay, got it.
And we talk about drugs that I take or he wants me to take and I don't want to take. We talk about surgeries he thinks I should line up for and I don't want to line up for. And it's a discussion. It's a half-hour discussion every 3 or 4 months, and it's fine. It also keeps me cognizant, aware, if you will, of what's going on, and we discuss things like what's happening with stem cells. It's not just going with the treatments that have been around for a long time or a while, but what's coming. And
Mm.
because that's where my curiosity is what's coming and is it going to be better? Will it solve any problems? Will it make me a better person? Will it, cut the vibrations down a little bit?
Mm.
So, Larry, have you been following what is happening in the space station and on
Yeah,
the molecular
yes,
experiments?
I'm fascinated by that. And in the meantime, though, I'm on my bike. There's a short ride this April from Chicago to Phoenix. There's a ride to join the World Parkinson Congress in Phoenix in May, and a bike ride that starts from Chicago. I have to start putting in some miles. I can't commit to riding every day, but I think a week out will get me to Phoenix. So wherever a week out is on Route 66, apparently it's the 100th anniversary of Route 66. So a week out riding 100 miles a day puts me into Phoenix in May, hopefully getting off my bike and enjoying the Parkinson Congress in Phoenix.
I've driven Route 66, so I know the trip, and it's not easy in a car either.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember being there near Winslow, Arizona, and the Roadkill Cafe was right there.
Oh, great. I'll make sure I avoid that.
Thanks for being on the program, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
And you're winners, all of you, of the Global Business News Communicator Award, just because you did this today. The world will see this. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you
Care,
all.
everyone.
Come back.
Gentlemen, be well.